first and foremost, you might be wondering, what is calendar management? What does that process look like? What is that whole thing? What is calendar management in the first place? Hey there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, my goal is at this video is to walk you through how to manage your client's calendar as a virtual assistant. Now, if this is your first time on my channel, my name is Lacaba. I've been working from home since I was 15 years old and now run my own virtual assistant company 2XU here in the Philippines. And I post videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and out of business from home. So make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos. So first and foremost, you might be wondering, what is calendar management? What does that process look like? What is that whole thing? What is calendar management in the first place? Calendar management as a virtual assistant is basically just another way for you to filter input for your client. What I mean by this is calendar is one of the ways that they will get input from other people on meetings, on possible deadlines, on possible things that they should be doing. And you as a virtual assistant, your priority would be three main things. The first goal of calendar management is to prioritize. What I mean by this is making sure that what is on your client's calendar are the actual priorities of the things that they need to get done in their business. Calendar management isn't just about putting on meetings, isn't just about putting on events. It's also helping them manage their life and making sure that things that are on there are actually the priorities for them. The second goal is to make sure to give clarity or purpose to whatever goes onto their calendar. So making sure that meetings are put on there actually make sense for them to attend, or things that are tasks or deadlines that are put on them actually make sense for their goal. There's actually something that they're working towards whenever you put something on their calendar. And lastly, when it comes to calendar management, is you're creating boundaries. What I mean by this is you're helping them also just live their life outside of their business. You're also helping manage not just their work life, but also helping them have an actual personal life as well. Whether it's you filtering incoming calendar invites that shouldn't be on their calendar because it's beyond, their usual work hours, or it could just be making sure that no calendar invite conflict with each other. You are helping them manage their life through their calendar, through what they spend their time on. So how do you actually manage your client's calendar? The first thing is, again, first goal is to learn to prioritize. So understand what's important to them. Understand what are their priorities in life. Like, do they want to be working more than they should be living life? Or are they kind of more of a lifestyle kind of business where they want to have more time to themselves and the least time at work? Different business owners will have different goals. So depending on your client, this is one of the first things you should probably ask them as you're starting to take over their calendar. You want to make sure that it's clear to you and to them what are the priorities that should go into the calendar and what should be thrown out right away. Next step is to understand what types of meetings to add. Now, I'm going to dive this into a little bit more later in the video, but you want to understand what type of meetings that you would usually have, whether they're one-off meetings, recurring meetings, or like big events they might be speaking in, they might be attending, or it could be life events like birthdays, anniversaries, or personal events that they have to attend to. Next is, as a virtual assistant, you have to work with others on scheduling. Again, you filter with the input for your client. So what that means is if someone wants to book a calendar event with them, a meeting, an event, you are the first one to okay, wait, let me check actually their calendar. Let's see if this makes sense for their goals, makes sense for where they're at. If it conflicts anything else, you will work with people back and forth, probably email, probably through tools like Calendly or Equity, where you are making sure that the meetings, again, that are on their calendar are lined up with their own priorities. So you're probably going to be emailing people back and forth of, hey, this is their availability, what's your availability, what makes sense back and forth for this meeting to actually happen. Next is, again, to make sure that you also clear out conflict. When you're managing someone's calendar, you're making sure that there are no two meetings at the same time because they're not a clone. They can only just be in one meeting. So you're making sure that you're clearing out that conflict. And lastly, when it comes to managing calendar, is you help set priorities based on deadlines. So what this means is, let's say that your client had this very specific goal or project that they set like a deadline towards, is making sure that things that are on their calendars are synced up to those priorities. So let's say that they wanted to be able to get to 10 clients by the end of the year. So any sales calls or any onboarding calls with new clients are going to be the most important. So anything else beyond that is going to be questioned and looked at, like, okay, do you actually need to have this this meeting because you have these 10 other sales calls to do that day. So again, it's making sure that's what's on there are actually in line with their goals. So what are usually things that are actually inputted in someone's calendar? The first thing is just meetings, which is the common thing. And this is what usually people think when it comes to calendar management. It's just a place to be able to know what kind of meetings you have next, but there's actually so much more than that. Other than meetings, the other thing that goes onto your client's calendar is priority work. Now, depending on the kind of client that you have, they might want to set up blocks of time where they're working on particular things on their business, again, based on a project or a deadline that they're working towards. And this might be something that even you set for them of like, hey, I know you have this project or this priority or this deadline that you need to set out. Do you want me to block out a time in your day in the next couple of weeks to make sure that it actually gets done? So it's you being more proactive of making sure that they have time to do the things they're supposed to be doing instead of just doing meetings the whole day. Other things that should be on your client's calendar is their lunchtime, which sounds weird and sounds funny, but you should probably try to set time with them when it comes to setting boundaries of when they want to take their break time. So like, hey, I want to make sure that you have your lunchtime. If your client is just in the same kind of time zone as you, where you can send them even their lunch, then that's something that you can help set up for them. It also makes sure that they have that break in between meetings and they're taking care of themselves, because as an entrepreneur, we do sometimes forget to eat. So putting in their lunch times is going to be an important thing, or it could be their dinner or their breakfast, but having a time where they can take a break in between work, just like how you would like to take your lunch break. This is something that you can just add onto their calendar. Another thing that you might want to add is their sleeping schedule. Now, again, sounds weird, but this is something that I learned from one of my most amazing coaches, Dan McPherson, where adding your sleep schedule onto your calendar helps when it comes to setting that boundary of when you should be off working, when you should pause and start getting ready for sleep. So for example, for me, I have my sleep time from 10 o'clock to 5 a.m. and an hour before that, I have my shut-off time where I should be making sure that I'm not on my computer anymore, I'm not working, tempting as it usually is. It sets, again, that boundary of what I should be working on and what I'm prioritizing. And also, another thing that should be on your client's calendar is any holidays or personal events. It could be holidays that are in their country that are important to them, or it could be events for their family. Again, birthdays, anniversaries, weddings they should be attending, or it could also be other events that they just want to be able to go. Those should be on their calendar as well. Now, when it comes to types of meetings, when it comes to managing your client's calendar, I've kind of surmised or kind of made up the 4 different types of meetings, but it helps a lot when you're managing someone's calendar. First type of meeting is a mountain meeting. Now, this is a meeting that cannot be moved. These are meetings that are usually with their business, business owners or founders, or it could be financial meetings that they're supposed to be having at a particular date, at a particular time, because it's with other people and it cannot be moved. That's why it's called a mountain meeting. So try to start identifying what these mountain meetings are for your client. Next to that are boulder meetings. What I mean by boulder meetings is they're a little bit harder to move. As much as possible, keep them there, but they can be moved if possible. So that's what a boulder meeting is. These could be meetings where it's one-on-one with someone. It's a recurring meeting for them. It could be a meeting where it's with a client. And again, as much as possible, don't move it. But if we really, really have to, it's going to be hard to move, but we can actually move it. The next kind of meeting are rocks meetings. Now, rocks meetings are easier to move depending on their size, depending on their weight. These are now of the more flexible meetings. So these could be one-on-ones with just possible connections. This could be just with friends. Again, these are more, easier to move around kind of meetings, but they're there. They're solid. There's something that they're probably supposed to be happening. You can't really just cancel them willy-nilly. It has to happen. The last kind of meeting that I've made up, again, is called a Pebbles Meeting. Pebbles Meeting is something that's usually light. I think it's usually pretty easy to move. So that's a way that you can think of Pebble Meeting is they're a nice to have. So you want to work with your client and identifying what are their mountain meetings, their boulder meetings, their rocks meetings, and their pebble meetings, just so it's easy for you to move things around as needed. So let's say someone who's just, a mountain meeting and they're overlapping with a rocks meeting, that rocks meeting can be moved away and the mountain meeting becomes the priority. Or it could be that you have, a boulder meeting that wants to conflict with a mountain meeting. You're going to try your darndest to try to move it to make sure it doesn't conflict, but you know which ones, again, are the priority for your client. So you want to start identifying this. You might want to create a list of all the recurring meetings that they have or the usual meetings that they have and ask them to rank which one of them are, again, the mountain, the boulder, and the rocks, and the pebbles. And of course, you want to make sure you have a calendar invite checklist when you're managing your client's calendar. Now, what do we mean by calendar invite checklist? It's basically a way for you to check things off every time you send a calendar invite. And there's basically 6 things that you want to make sure that you check off when you're going through this checklist. First thing is making sure that the title is purpose of the meeting. So making sure that they know, or people are aware of, like when they see, oh, what's this meeting for? It's right on the title. So it could be, X and Y sync call. It could be X and Y check-in. It could be actually saying, introduction call, sales call. So basically, what is the purpose of this meeting? So then as your client or the person you've invited looks through their calendar, they're able to know right off the bat, like, oh, this is what that meeting is for. This is why it is an important meeting. Second part of the checklist is making sure you double check and triple check the time and the date. And this is something that can be scary, especially with time zones. So it's important that you add, if you are using Google Calendar, you can add your client's time zone as a setting in their calendar and your time zone in the setting as well. So then you guys are seeing clearly what time it would be on their end. So you're also making sure that you have the right date. You're also double checking that with the person that you're setting the meeting with, that it's on the right time zone. So you have to, again, double and triple check this. This is going to be where I've seen a lot of people make mistakes when it comes to calendar management. It's just double, triple checking this part of the process. Is making sure that you have the right date, you have the right time based on their time zones. Next thing to check off is this a recurring meeting? And this is something that if you're using Google Calendar, you can easily check off. If it's a weekly meeting, a daily meeting, a monthly meeting, a quarterly meeting, up to you. But you need to make sure that it is checked off. That way you don't have to keep setting this meeting up every week, every month, every quarterly. It's just already there. The next part of your checklist is who is going? Who are the people who are supposed to be in this meeting? A little known thing that not a lot of people realize is you can set people as optional if they're not supposed to really be there, but they'd be really nice to have them there. You can also set the calendar invite where they can modify the time as needed. Again, it's up to you and your client, but you want to make sure that who is supposed to be there is actually invited into the meeting. Next is making sure that you have the right location or Zoom link or Google Chats link wherever they need to go, making sure that's easy to access. So for example, for me on my calendar, I like putting the Zoom link right in where the location is, because when I click open the calendar, it's one of the things that show up right away. It's the location. So for me and my assistant, a lot of what she does is make sure, again, the Zoom link is right there. And lastly is, if you can, add a description to the meeting. If it's just a quick and fast meeting, it's just a Pebble or Rocks meeting where it was just set up really quickly, you probably don't have to. But for a mountain type meeting or a Boulder meeting where there needs to be context, you might want to add like where the project is in, important links that they will need to open. You can also add in the agenda that they will need to follow. You're already adding in what are the important things that they will need to know as they get into the meeting to basically set them up for success, especially if you're not going to be in that meeting where it's easy for your client to ask you certain things, to send them certain things. You want to make sure that's already there in the description. Now, a few final tips when it comes to managing your client's calendar is, first, keep in mind to just be flexible. There's a lot of things in life that will throw everything out of whack. There will be things in life that will pop up where you will have to move things in their calendar. For example, for me, if I get speaking gigs, my assistant knows to move things around those dates to make sure that I can get to that speaking gig. Whether it's canceling invites or emailing people to ask them for another availability because I'm not available during that time anymore. Second is you can create templates for the descriptions. Again, you make this super easy for yourself, but you can create like a Google Doc or a Notion page that has all of the descriptions for the common types of meetings that your clients usually is in anyway. So then it's easier for you to create the calendar invite. Nothing falls through the cracks. You know what links to put on where, and things are just easier to process and to go through. And lastly, just a good and final tip is to audit the calendar weekly. What I mean by this is making sure that you help clean up your client's calendar as much as you can, and you check on things every week. This is probably best done at the beginning of the week where you can go through them. Oh, these are your meetings throughout the week. Is there anything that you want me to change? Or, hey, I think you've been doing too many of these types of meetings. Does it still make sense for them to show up in your calendar? Again, depending on your client, this is something that's going to be helpful for them and for you to keep being up to date on what their priorities are. Now, if you guys like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there and comment below what other tips do you have when it comes to calendar management. And if you still haven't, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out those two playlists right here and the latest video right here. Now, I hope you guys have an awesome day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!